Well, I just think naming is an interesting one, particularly when you're talking about a opportunity to sell your business. If you have an established name that is in the lexicon of people, whether it's local and in your community or it's national and in your industry, if people already identify that name as representing something, then that is an asset that you can sell as part of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. I named a business that was a sports, it was a merino wool sports like material, like shirts and stuff, because it's moisture wicking. And we went through the whole naming process, the whole brand identity process, and
got some great names for you.
One of their heartbeats was to lessen the amount of things out of plastics within our shirts. So you and I are both wearing regular shirts that have micro amounts of plastic in them. And so they wanted to lessen that, but they also wanted to educate people about the importance of sustainability, all the things, right? Yeah. And I sat there and I pondered. I came up with like 4 or 5 really good names. And what we landed on was the name Lessen, Lesen. The beauty of Lessen was that it was to lessen the amount of plastics and all that stuff in the marketplace in that space, right? But then it also spoke to the idea of learning a lesson, so teaching and the education portion of their business.
Yeah.
And so now they had this brand that had purpose, right? They have, hey, our goal is to educate you about all these things, and then also eliminate the amount of plastics that we find in everyday wear. And so Lesson was like this beautiful, euphoria, I guess, of like, oh man, these two things mean, this one word means 2 different things, and they both align with what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think naming, it could go a million different ways, but finding the right name matters.
Yeah. And a lot of people just name their company after themselves.
Yeah.
It's here's my name. And I think depending on what your intentions are with the business, that's a really good idea. I know that in some cases, if you name a business after yourself, it becomes harder to sell because the new business owners potentially want to use their own name or their own likeness as part of the business, or they want to rebrand it, and then it doesn't have as much value to it. Although I know plenty of businesses that are owned by not the original founder, but they've been bought and they keep the family name on it just for brand recognition. But it was actually when I named my company BrandNerd, I thought about that. I was like, I want to name this something that I can sell and anybody else can buy this and run with the name, and it means something.
The opposite of me, which is Pete Design Co.
Well, yeah.
I just need to find another Pete out there
who wants Pete's out there
who wants to buy my business. Yeah. So,
well, but yours. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but when you started yours, you intended to build a personal freelance design business, whereas I intended to build a company.
Right.
And so we thought about it in different terms. Yep. And
100%.
I don't think that's not what you did is not incorrect.
Yeah.
It's just what you decided to do.
Yeah. And in hindsight, actually, I'm like, I actually don't want to just be like a freelance designer. I have a million other things I want to do.
Right.
So I'm actually really glad. I'm glad I went about it that way, because now I feel like I have the flexibility to have that and then also explore other things.
And one of the things that's great about BrandNerd that's actually been a real help is I can create extensions of the brand. So we can start a podcast and a podcast studio, and BrandNerd still works for that because the name happens to be pretty broad.
Yeah.
Brand is such a broad topic, and nerd is just an accessible word. I mean, my thought when I started it was this idea of when you're in high school or college, there was this certain group of people that would convince and or pay nerds to do their homework, right? And I remember every now and then I'd like get wind of like, so-and-so pays people to do their assignments for them. Like, that makes total sense. So I just believed it. Who knows if it's true or not. But my thought was, BrandNerd, you you are now in a position where you can pay the nerds to do your marketing homework, to do your branding homework. So go ahead and pay the nerds.
Yeah. Deploy the nerds.
And it's a generational thing too. Deploy the nerds. Exactly. It's a generational thing too. Cause like my grandparents, you know, you say nerd and they're like, oh, that's a derogatory, like that's a negative term, but nerd culture has become a thing to the point where I'm not even sure that I'm welcome in all nerd culture, you know, like,
because you're not nerdy enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like
I'm a well-rounded nerd. Like I play sports.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're athletic.
Right.
No, totally. And that's important to know. I even asked you that, I think, when we first met and maybe talking about your own branding. I was just like, what does nerd mean to you? Because nerd does mean a lot of different things.
Yeah,
but
I nerd out over brand.
We nerd out over brands. Right.
And I mean, I've got some nerd credits. You know, I've read Lord of the Rings a dozen times. And
this year alone?
No. But now that Andy Serkis... If you come into the office and I'm the only one in here, it's
lo-fi
Lord of the Rings on
so
repeat.
Good.
I love it.
I love that stuff.
Chill Robot. I think it's Chill Robot. Does a really awesome,
like on YouTube, like a playlist. Yeah,
he has an awesome, like 3-hour long, just ambient Lord of the Rings.
That was the one that had like Gandalf in the background every once in a while.
The only voice in it at any point is
like humming or something.
Well, yeah, that does have him humming, but at one point it goes, "The Lonely Mountain."
Yeah,
like it's just got that
just randomly
random sample in there. If you enjoyed this Brand Nerd podcast clip, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. In the meantime, here are additional videos you might find illuminating.